Hello, everyone. Welcome to Any Given Monday. Today we have Bella as our guest, and just want to let you know if you're interested in sponsoring an episode, please feel free to reach out to us. We highlight different brands that want to get in front of small business owners and individuals interested in pursuing entrepreneurship. So let's bring on our guest. Welcome, welcome. So today we have Bella Karakis, and I think one of the things that's most exciting is that we are both alumni of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. And I'm going to hand it over to Bella. The reason I thought it was important to have this conversation is because there are many business owners out there that are working in food service or food product businesses, and they are caterers or they have this amazing bread or cookie, and I don't think everyone is aware of the idea of a commercial kitchen. So Bella, I'm going to pass it off to you for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. And thank you for having me on this morning. It's exciting to have this conversation with you. So my name is Bella Karakis, and I am the CEO and co-founder of e.terra Kitchen. We are a flexible commercial kitchen with 2 locations based in Harlem. And we provide 2 core services: kitchen production space, as well as business support for all sorts of food and beverage businesses. And we customize the production space as well as the support to fit their individual needs.
Oh, wonderful. And how did you start your business, or what prompted you to think about commercial kitchen?
Well, by profession, I am a trademark attorney. Practiced for many years, advised and provided legal services for many brands, including in the food and beverage space, as well as hospitality, entertainment, and fashion. And I've always been drawn to the food space. So about 15 years ago, I tried to launch my own line of biscotti. I was still a full-time practicing attorney, and we lived in Stamford, Connecticut. And the one thing that stopped my progress was the fact that the whole entire state of Connecticut did not have a commercial kitchen that could easily access and rent to scale my recipe. And then years later, with another partner and in a different state, we launched a couple of food truck operations. And again, the same thing happened. And there was no commercial kitchen easily accessible to us. And that was my aha moment. We then focused our attention on launching a shared kitchen. And we opened 3 locations under that brand. And here I am with e.terra with 2 locations.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I think there are some key words that you shared that people may not particularly appreciate, but you used the word scale, and you realized that it was a barrier for you to grow your business. When did you make the determination that you needed more, or that you had to scale, you were ready to scale?
To scale my own, you mean the food truck operations?
Well, you mentioned that 3 times. So you mentioned it with the biscotti, you mentioned it with the food truck. What was that roadblock that you were hitting specifically?
Well, the key roadblock to that is really having an easily accessible kitchen, commercial grade kitchen that as a small food business, we could operate out of, that we can handle all of our back end production, meaning scaling the recipe, meaning producing the product, or producing food for service, as in the food truck space, and being able to wash our pots and pans and our wares, to be able to store things, whether it's refrigerated items or shelf stable, all of the supplies. we really needed that base of operation in order to be able to scale, in order to be able to not only do daily operations, but also to take on catering orders, which are a lot more lucrative than daily operations. So all of it really requires that production space, but also the support. And as a food entrepreneur times two in the past, we didn't have that until we launched our own. So it is a critical service that we provide with e.terra.
Yeah, thank you for that because I think I don't know if everyone has thought about how do we grow our business. So if you're a food entrepreneur and maybe you're making everything in the kitchen, there's this line when it's no longer acceptable. Now you mentioned commercial grade. Why is that important?
Well, a commercial kitchen is always overseen and inspected and permitted by the health department. So you know that anything that's produced in the commercial kitchen will be or should be in line with health department regulations. So it should give consumers that much more confidence that the food is produced in sanitary conditions, in a sanitary way, and it's safe to eat. And to produce out of a commercial kitchen is absolutely required if you are, like I was, a consumer packaged good, otherwise known as CPG, right? Anything that is packaged and sold into markets or on grocery shelves or deli shelves, all of that requires that it is produced in a commercial facility that's permitted by the health department. Some of it may require additional permitting, like USDA, but we won't get into that. That's more specialized. But generally speaking, it has to be in a health department permitted facility. You can't be producing it at home. You also
Interesting,
want to
interesting.
be in a
So
commercial. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. You said you want to be in a
Yeah, so
commercial.
it also, being in a commercial kitchen helps you to scale faster and to produce bigger volume in a shorter period of time because the commercial grade equipment is able to tackle that much more versus your home kitchen or your home oven or stove.
Yeah, and I think so there are a few things that come up. When should a small entrepreneur make the investment in using a commercial kitchen space? At what point do they cross that line?
Yeah, so certain states have what's called cottage industry laws, which really allows a true startup food business to start at home if they get their home kitchen permitted by the health department, by the local health department. And that allows them to start, test their menu, test their recipes, perfect it, maybe figure out if it's a CPG product, figure out the branding, the packaging, and all of that while they're testing the market. And they could even start selling, but selling at a farmer market in small quantities. Different states have different maximums of revenue that you could achieve while making your product out of a home kitchen. It could be something like $50,000 or even up to maybe $75,000. But beyond that, you really can't be doing it from your home kitchen, and you need to be in a commercial kitchen that is fully permitted. And just to clarify, the kitchen itself, like ours, is health department permitted. But as a business joining a kitchen like ours, a flexible commercial kitchen, you yourself have to be an entity, a legal entity authorized to do business in your state and be permitted separately. Your business has to be permitted separately by the health department or by the Department of Agriculture and Markets, depending on type of product or service you're providing in that kitchen. So there are two levels of permits. The facility has a permit and the business producing has a permit.
Wow, I don't think a lot of people understand the process and all of the nuances and legalities that go into starting a food service business. So when I think about like a local caterer or someone that I found on Instagram, if I'm looking at this catering company, what are some of the things that that catering company should be considering as they try to scale or reach new markets?
Well, a catering company that's looking to do any sort of volume beyond like a small, intimate dinner party for 10 people or 20 people really needs to have that commercial kitchen to scale. It's impossible to do the production in your small kitchen if you're doing catering for 150, 200 people or up. You really need to be in a commercial facility that can help you do that more efficiently. Otherwise you'll be cooking for days. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, we had a good conversation around like we don't know what everybody's home looks like. And so
Yeah.
you can't eat everyone's cooking is the conversation, but not just because of how they put together. We just don't know what the situation is in their home. So even talk about that. Like when you think about marketing your business as a caterer, what are some of the other conversations around using commercial kitchens that you think really close the deal?
Yeah. For instance, in a kitchen like ours, you're also, as a caterer, if you're coming in to take a look at the kitchen to see if it fits your needs, you're also looking at the type of equipment the kitchen is set up with. And we are a fully set up kitchen with multiple stoves, multiple ovens, multiple types of ovens. One type of oven that we have is the brand is Rationale, and it's a Rationale iCombi oven. We have multiples of those, and those are top of the line tech enabled ovens that can really maximize your production. They can do so many things. That one oven can replace at least 4 types of commercial grade equipment. You can do anything from proofing your product to steam injection and steaming your product, sous vide, all the way up to charbroiling. And it could do multiple dishes in the same time in one oven. And if you're taking out one dish because it's ready to go because it needs shorter cooking time, the oven actually senses that the door is open, so you could take this dish out and it will reset the time for the other dishes that need to cook longer. So it's perfection every time for everything that goes into that oven. So just all of those efficiencies that you find in a commercial kitchen, there's no way to replicate that in your home kitchen.
Wow, thank you. And I think, as a person that bakes a little bit, I don't really do too much, but I do have one or two recipes that my grandmother passed down to me. I've never thought about how would I be able to do this in a larger scale or how would I be able to distribute it to more people. And one of the things I love about your model is that it's for any size entrepreneur. Tell us more about like the membership and how do people share this kitchen, this commercial kitchen? Are multiple is it like watching Chopped or watching one of these television shows where everyone is just in the kitchen doing their thing? Tell us more about the experience of being part of a commercial kitchen.
It's actually it's actually more exciting and more dynamic than the Chopped episode because we have 2 locations. In one of the locations, we have 2 separate kitchens, and each kitchen is what we call like open format flexible kitchen. It has multiple stations. Some stations are just cold prep, some are hot prep. And by that, I mean the cold prep doesn't have access to hot cooking equipment, but it's super useful because it helps to, number one, keep the cost down. If all you're doing is making ice cream or making juices or just packing volumes of meal prep out to go for delivery, you could use that and keep your costs down. Or if you're cooking, you're booking your hot prep station and you're choosing the equipment you want to be next to because you're frying something, you need a fryer, or you need to bake, you choose ovens, and so on. But you just you choose the way you want to position. You also look at the amount of team members you have and how big your production is. If you're just a startup, you're usually using one station, whether it's cold or hot. And we have a scheduling app that we use for everybody. They all have access to it. They can book their station anytime. They can book it an hour before they come in. They can book it days or months in advance. Just a matter of who else is booking. They'll go on the scheduling app and they see that XYZ station is not available because somebody else already booked. But otherwise, they have the flexibility, and they can add hours, and they can come in because they have access to the kitchen 24/7. So that's one of the unique factors of e.terra, that we allow our member base to have access to the kitchen 24/7 with it's a virtual key card access on their phones. So whenever they need to come in, they come in, and they book online. So it's very flexible, and we've been able to accommodate so many different types of members or member operations. So it could be a startup that is catering or baking or doing juices or gelatos, or it could be a large meal prep company that's producing meals for corporations or for corporate dining service or schools. So, and they might need 6 stations. So it's just a matter, and they might need access to this type of equipment or this type of storage. So we will customize their packages. We'll even rearrange stations in order to give them the maximum access and capacity so that they can be most efficient.
Wow, this is fascinating. It reminds me of like the co-working space. One, you get to come into a shared space and get motivation from other entrepreneurs. So I'm a member at Luminary, but when I enter the Luminary space, I'm re-energized by all of the other people working. So we're also able to talk and share ideas. So that's really exciting. And then on top of that, you're giving them the autonomy to book things that they need. So it's like I book a conference room and then I'm able to facilitate what I need. But then also the fact that as entrepreneurs, we don't like to be restricted to the 9 to 5. We are working 9 to 5, 5 to 9. And so it's great to hear that flexibility is allowing them to prep and do what they need to beforehand.
Oh,
And
for
then,
sure. There's also, I'll just say a quick word about the flexibility is so key. A lot of startups start their business while they're still fully working a 9 to 5 job. So it's absolutely required for them to be able to access a kitchen, that it's available in off hours. We also have brands that are very tied into a particular meal where they're delivering out, let's say for breakfast. So in order for them to hit the breakfast needs of their clients, they need to be cooking overnight. So all of those different needs we can accommodate.
oh, that's wonderful. And I see a few comments. I hear good feedback and conversation, amazing model, such a great place for food and beverage, can control your overhead. Let's talk about controlling overhead. Some of the financial models that people don't think about is, are you going to have a brick and mortar? And what is the cost of maintaining your own kitchen? So it sounds like this is an operational cost that really helps a business scale and they can select as they need. So talk to me about like, do you help support business owners in figuring out how to put this in their financial model, or are you working with them to help figure that part out too?
So first of all, we help them to keep the costs down tremendously by just the fact that they can access our kitchen. Let's say somebody who's whether it's a startup or a restaurant that has several locations around the city and they need to access our kitchen, they can do so within a few weeks. All they need to do is do the paperwork, such as insurance, show us things like that. They have food handler certification or somebody on their team that will be there all the time that's food safety certified. And then they need to just file for a health department permit. And then they come in with it under 4 weeks. Really, in 3 weeks, they could be operating in our space, which is never the case if they're building out a brick and mortar. Also, they could start operating in under $2,000 of expense up front, just coming in to working in our space if they're coming in and using minimal hours. And the minimal hours for a member is like 20 hours a month. that they're committing to. So it's really minimal, considering that if you were to take the smallest brick and mortar space and you need some sort of cooking equipment in it, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars laid out, unless you're taking a second generation restaurant space. But even then, most of the time, they require key money to be paid upfront in order to take over space that's already fitted out with equipment. Most likely, second generation equipment may not be working well. You're still going to need to, be involved with a lot of expenses in retrofitting it. So there's a lot of benefit to starting in a shared space or flexible commercial kitchen. And so we help them with that. And beyond that, once they're in and they're scaling, they can scale as much as they need in our space, to the point where now they need more than we can provide, or they want to open their own brick and mortar elsewhere, not in our neighborhood. Then we can help to mentor them, to put them in front of consultants that could help them with thinking through the logistics of build out. And there's also a lot of free services that New York City provides for new businesses opening brick and mortar. They can help with a lot of the consulting, a lot of the permitting that could be done. So it's a lot of services, free services that people can access, that a lot of people don't know exist, and we can put them in front of those services.
Yeah, and shout out to New York City Small Business Services. They have an entire food service arm around training and development. So that's a one way that, yeah, people listening. So one of the things that I thought about immediately were all of the different food fairs and farmers markets that happen, where businesses are trying to port all of their stuff into one local community for these weekend activities. And I think your kitchen sounds like an amazing space. So if I'm coming from Brooklyn or Westchester or Connecticut, I can house everything and work out of your kitchen to prepare and have fresh food for a Harlem Food Festival, or, a local pop-up that's going to happen weekend after weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And we have a lot of people working out of our space who are regular vendors at Smorgasburg, at the night markets, as well as the big festivals like Vegan Dale, lots of music festivals and other fairs around the city during the high season, which is April to October. They can easily work out of our space. We're super flexible as to hours. They have access after hours, as I said, 24/7. And we've also recently partnered with a delivery service that can help them with the logistics of getting to and from the events, and bringing in heavier equipment such as tables, chairs, tents, signage, etc., as well as their food product. So we try to partner with other services that we may ourselves not be providing, so that it helps to become like a comprehensive solution, no matter how big or small your operation is.
Yeah, and that's very powerful, comprehensive, because business owner, you want to focus on the food, but then there are all of these other things that you have to think about to work on your business instead of in it. And the other thing I love is that it sounds like you are using a lot of high-tech equipment that individuals wouldn't normally have to buy. Well, they would have to buy it if they had their own space. So it sounds like you're also using like state-of-the-art equipment and putting them in the position to try things that they wouldn't have normally been able to afford.
For sure. We're one of the few kitchens in New York City that have gelato machine. So anybody whose core business is creating ice cream or gelato, well, we're set up for it. But if somebody is a baker but wants to expand into offering their clients gelato, they can do that because we have the equipment.
Oh, I love that.
It's just an example.
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking any applications for tasters for any of these businesses, let me know, because I'm happy to volunteer as a taster.
I'm sure we will.
Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, you mentioned that what is like the buyer beware moment. So there are some startups popping up around, commercial kitchen models. What are some of the things that people should be aware of when they're thinking about looking for a commercial kitchen?
Well, they really should be looking at what type of operation they have and how much room they need, how much resources they need, and also their finances, right? We've had so we can accommodate them from the very beginning, and as I said, we only require that they commit to 20 hours per month, which is not much at all when you think about a catering operation. If they get one catering order that's for, let's say, 150 people, they may be in the kitchen for up to like 15 hours producing that. And that's just one catering order per month. So if you're required to do 20 hours, it's not a lot of a commitment. But then there are other types of kitchen models outside of ours. There are like ghost kitchen suites that are significantly more expensive, and they're smaller. They're like an office, like in a co-working space. You could have a hot desk, which is the open format, the equivalent to our kitchen model, or you could have an office to yourself, which you're paying significantly more for. The same thing goes in the kitchen world, where you could be renting a ghost kitchen suite and have it all to yourself. But it could also become it could work for lots of operations, but it could also be very detrimental because that kitchen suite may be only 300 square feet. It can only fit X amount of storage. You have to still equip it yourself. Usually it comes with a hood and some sinks, but it doesn't have all the hot cooking equipment, doesn't have the refrigeration. You have to bring it all yourself. So you're talking about probably a $50,000 expense just to equip that space. Plus, monthly, they cost upwards of $8,000 a month, usually 8,000 to upwards of 10. And then what happens when you max out that space and all of a sudden you need more storage? You're still paying for the storage outside of your space, etc. So sometimes, depends on the operation. It's great for delivery only ghost restaurants to be in a space like that. It might not work well for a caterer or for a big meal prep company because they have a lot of staff. You can only fit so many into a 300 square foot space. So we're more flexible for the larger operations and the very smaller ones. So it's just you have to decide what's right for you and do your due diligence and look at the different spaces and compare the notes.
Well, I love that you alleviate the stress of the health department. You're dealing with all of the inspections and you're dealing with all of the nuances that come with making sure that the space is safe and sanitary. So I think that that's a huge added benefit as well.
Yeah, I mean, so to clarify, we are a health department permitted facility. We work with the members to make sure that they're set up for success for the inspection. We're constantly enforcing the rules of the health department to make sure that people working in the kitchen regularly are wearing hair nets, wearing gloves, are washing in a sanitary way. They're storing things in a sanitary way. So we become like an extension of the health department to enforce those rules on a regular basis. But the members themselves have to also pass inspection and on a yearly basis so that they can have their permit and renew the permit.
Well, that's an interesting nuance. So one of the other things I'd like to say is you are hosting events at your space so that people can see it. And with the short amount of time that we have left, tell us about some of the events you've hosted in the past and what you have coming.
So we do the events primarily so that we can create awareness and educate the public on not only the service we provide as the kitchen, but also to the amazing variety of food and service providers that are members of our kitchen, because we like to help them with business development, to bring them opportunities, whether they're catering or vending or getting into bigger markets for their CPG products. So some of the events, we just recently hosted an Earth Day event. We partnered with Yondu Studio, which is a beautiful space in the Seaport area. And we had an amazing panel of experts in urban agriculture who were talking about the urban ag space in New York City, which a lot of people are not familiar with. But amazingly, there are over 700 community gardens just in New York City alone, as well as countless urban farms that are on rooftops and as well as in smaller farm-like settings like on Randall Island. So it was very educational, and we partnered with a number of brands like Sandbird Tea, provided us with buckwheat tea, which was mind-blowing. It was so amazing. Highly recommend. And then everybody had amazing food and just shared ideas on urban ag. So that was a great success. We had a packed house. And we do events like that throughout the year. And it's to really to collaborate and bring everybody together and make sure that everybody comes out winning.
Okay. And do you have an event coming up that you want to promote or mention? And we'll put the link in the post so that people.
Yeah, we do. We have an industry night, pizza night, coming up on May 8th, where everybody's going to be able to hear some amazing entrepreneurial stories from the co-founder of Wave Hill Bread, as well as Hudson Creative, and also build their own pizzas. We have a pizza bar. Everybody builds their own pizzas, and Rationale chefs are going to be baking them in the Rationale iCombi ovens to show us how you can bake a pizza in 6 minutes flat.
Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. Okay, so we're towards the end. Do you have any parting tips or words of wisdom for individuals that are in the food service business?
Really do your due diligence. Don't assume that you have to open your own space. Don't even assume that you have to open a food truck operation. Really, you could start small. Take as many of free courses as you possibly can that Department of Small Business Services and the SBDC provide to startups and to entrepreneurs. Learn, talk to advisors. There's also a lot of free advice out there that is from experienced business counselors. And if you can get into an accelerator program, such as the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, go for it. It is a life-changing experience. But go slow, do your due diligence, and spend less. Think of spending less.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to just extend a courtesy because I did a huge disservice by not asking, what does e.terra mean?
e.terra stands for earth, sprout, beginning, root of it all, because we're here to support the small businesses as well as the larger ones to grow something, whether you're growing from the very beginning or you're growing a different concept or you're expanding out. Earth is the mother of it all. It supports all growth.
I feel like that's a great place to end. If anyone would like to stay in contact with Bella, or she's accepting information around investors because she's expanding and opening more of these kitchens throughout the United States, if you'd like to be an investor, contact her directly. You have her LinkedIn information. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on Any Given Monday.
Thank you so much for having me on.